Good morning, afternoon, and evening to everyone. I, Anupama Rathi, on behalf of Infosys, welcome you to the virtual event Reimagine Legacy Succeed with Cloud. Legacy could be any system that stops your business from being resilient. It is not only mainframes, but it could be any system which brings inflexibility, slow speed, cost challenges, etc. Modernizing legacy is no more an option but an imperative for organizations to stay relevant. Today, we have very interesting topic for discussion, Reimagine Legacy, Succeed with Cloud. We will hear some real life experiences from our panelists during this discussion. I am very pleased to introduce you to our esteemed panel. We have Yugal Joshi, Vice President at Everest Group. Yugal will also be the moderator for this panel discussion. We are pleased to have our clients, Michael Alexander, President, Wealth Management and Global BPO at Broadridge, and Jay Belur, Director of Information Technology Customer Experience at Cisco Systems. Both Michael and Jay carry leadership responsibility to transform the technology and business models for their respective lines of business. To join our clients, we have Shaji Matthew, Executive Vice President at Infosys, also as a panel. I'm sure with such a great panel, it will be interesting to hear their drivers for modernization and success stories. Along with hear from them the challenges they faced in their modernization journey and how they overcame the same. With this, I now hand over to Yugal. Yugal has been very closely evaluating this market space for many years. So I request Yugal to first share some trends and insights around modernization before starting the panel discussion. Yugal, over to you, please.
Hey, thanks, Anupama. Thanks much, first of all, for inviting me for this very interesting as well as important topic. I think modernization has been around for ages since technology was is around. Having said that, the time we are currently living in, or almost for the last 12 months or so, and the cloud services adoption that has skyrocketed in the last few years, that has given modernization a very new direction as well as the impact it can create. Now, let me substantiate it. At the peak of the pandemic, Everest Group conducted a research with multiple enterprises, asking them about their modernization plans and their journeys. Truth to be told, I was very apprehensive that the clients will just say, now the pandemic has hit us, now we cannot do anything. And to be fair, some of the clients did say that. Some of the clients were in shock and frozen. But then there was a good chunk of people who said that modernization will continue. And I was very pleased to see that almost 3 in 4 of those enterprises, 75% of those enterprises, said that they are going to continue with their modernization journey. The structure of modernization journey may change, the prioritization of workloads may change, but the journey will continue. I think one of the biggest reason they said was that this pandemic has told us that we are not running as well as we can. Moreover, we are probably leaving business value on table due to our technology systems, and we would want to change it. Having said that, uh, the same enterprises, in fact, 85% of those said that yes, we would want to do modernization, but at the same time, we would want to have operational efficiency. So these two streams were going in parallel in their mind. On one hand, I will modernize my legacy environment. At the same time, I will drive operational efficiency. Historically, modernization has been seen as something that is a drain on technology funding. But now enterprises want to do both. They would want to save money as well as they would want to modernize. And they have done this optimization led modernization for quite many years. I think what they are now seeking is something beyond that. It's just not save me money for 3 years and then do something after 3 years. The return on investment timelines are getting shortened. Their expectations from people involved in modernization are skyrocketing, and one of the core reason for that is they believe now cloud services and other enabling technologies provide them that ammunition so that they can do multiple things at the same time, unlike earlier times, which is called as age of scarcity, where every technology was expensive. Now I think people can do a lot of POCs, get feedback faster, and then shape their modernization journey and then evolve it as much as it is needed. Having said that, I think not everything was hunky dory. I think most of the enterprises do say that they face challenges while they embark on any modernization journey. In fact, we assessed around more than 300 enterprise class modernization engagements, and then realized that though most of those enterprises were able to get the business case right, they were able to get what they wanted when they started the journey, but they were limiting themselves to very few parameters. Increasingly, we see enterprises requiring modernization not only to just create a cost bend curve or just evolve their technology landscape. They are bringing in a lot of business elements to it. And historically, lot of modernization projects have been run by technology teams, of course, with funding from the business and the guidance from the business. But now the businesses are playing lot more close role. In fact, almost a hands-on role in terms of modernization strategy and the journey. So that is something very interesting. And I think this is going to accelerate in the future. Business and technology are going to further work closely to drive modernization agenda. The challenges have typically been around, okay, I have so much of workloads. Where should I start, first of all? Right? How do I show business value to my leadership who is going to actually fund it? And then how do I justify some of those funding? That's one part of it. Second part of it, how do you bring in some of the, if I may say, fuzzy elements which probably cannot be converted completely into a quantifiable matrix? Things around uh, employee experience, things around customer experience, things around sustainability, and then whether I am becoming a better business, whether I am really expanding my ecosystem. And last but not the least, one of the key asks that most of the enterprises are now asking is that I do not want to create a technology system that is just readying me for disruption. I want to create my technology systems and processes that can make me create those disruptions in the industry. So it is just not about some disruption happens and then we are reacting to it. It is more about we are proactively creating that disruption. And then proactive word is extremely important. And that is where what I said earlier, that 3 in 4 of these enterprises wanted to proactively run their modernization journey rather than doing it as an ad hoc engagement whenever there is an end of life of a technology or they are not able to find the talent and so on, which have been traditionally the drivers for modernization. Just to sum up, I guess cloud services have made enterprises really bold in their modernization journey. They have seen what cloud services have done for their technology ecosystem in general, not only about moving from a capex to an opex model, but things about building better workloads, using cloud-based architectures to create lightweight workloads, creating seamless and easier integration. So net of it, as we see at Everest Group, I think cloud services and modernization are almost made for each other. I guess increasingly we will see leverage of cloud services going up, and it is up to the enterprises where would they want to take this journey. There will always be challenges, but then they will overcome it based on their specific situations. So I'll just invite my my co-panelists and then probably ask them a few questions because they have been doing this day in day out. Mike and Jay, and then of course Shaji from Infosys side, to get their perspectives around what did they do in their modernization journey, why did they start their modernization journey, what were some of those triggers, what kind of business case did they develop, what challenges they faced, and then where do they see this modernization journey going forward. So if I may ask the first question to Mike, what was the key trigger for your modernization journey?
Okay. Hi, good day, everybody. Thank you for inviting me to join the panel. And I just, at the onset, I want to be clear, I'm not a technologist. I'm a business person who runs technology in business areas and advocates for the client. So my perspective always comes from a business and client view. So what started this is what always starts things for us, is that the client drives our behaviors and they drive our investments. And collectively, we recognize that innovation is the fuel for growth engines. And I think when I look at it, for decades, firms are spending scarce investment dollars cobbling together disparate systems and not getting desired results. And two of my recent proof points are we did an advisor survey of 1,000 advisors in North America, and 77% of them are dissatisfied with their technology, and over 50% of them said that that could be the cause for them leaving their firm. So to me, modernization goes hand in hand with enabling advisors and firms to deepen and broaden their client relationships, and is really a business imperative. To otherwise they're going to lose their franchise. So I think on top of that, firms are undergoing incredible regulatory pressure and fee compression pressure. So the limited dollars they have are becoming even scarcer and less available for them to invest. And I think there's a widespread recognition of the need to modernize, simplify, and leverage emerging technologies. And COVID is an accelerator to this process and a great enabler, I think, to a lot of transformation that's going to come. So when we think about modernization, the goals are pretty clear for us and our clients. It's to digitize engagement, it's to personalize service, and it's to deliver holistic advice to clients. And increasingly, firms are turning to a trusted partner and thought leader like a Broadridge who can mutualize costs, investments, and innovation. So when you ask about our modernization effort, it's really of four fronts. It's about the people, it's about the processes, it's about our technology, and it's about our tools. And they're all equal because if we don't tie them all together, we won't have the ability to deliver on the transformation that we can from the modernization efforts. And what we did is we basically set our strategy and our goals. Our strategy is often referred to as our ABCDs of innovation, where A is artificial intelligence, B is blockchain, C is cloud, and D is digitization. And those are our driving force. And we have initiatives across all that spectrum in our various businesses, not just in wealth management, but throughout Broadridge. And the themes are relatively consistent. First, we have opened up our architecture. We're relying heavily on APIs and microservices. We recognize the need to be great at integrating and aggregating, and we want to be able to deliver more componentized solutions. But we do this in a single container. And in that single container, we can put our applications, client applications, and third-party applications. And we've recognized that we can't be all things to everybody, and that we'll focus where we add value, but we really want to be able to provide a holistic solution. And I would think about, as we modernize, providing an advisor application store, which enables our clients to quickly take advantage of emerging capabilities in the marketplace. So we believe our modernization effort enables flexibility, speed to market, and it allows firms to customize solutions and create a best-in-class opportunity. So the crux of it is, with our modernization, that we're trying to deliver tomorrow's tools today. Back to you.
Hey, thanks, Mike. Eh, Thanks for the comprehensive answer. And I think your focus on driving business value and then orchestrating the entire people, process, and technology landscape, I think it is fascinating. So let me just ask a similar question to Jay as well. Jay, if you can take some time to describe what was the reason for Cisco to take up this modernization program?
Yeah. Hey, thank you, Yugal. Thanks for inviting me to the panel. A quick introduction about what I do and what I do at Cisco. Right, my team provides IT services to Cisco's professional services business. Our professional services business at Cisco is a $3+ billion business, and my team and our the professional services organization has over 7,000 professional services folk that are out delivering proactive services to our customers, right? So that's a quick backdrop on what me and my team do. At a company level, Cisco is itself on a multi-year transformational journey to modernize Cisco's offerings. Subscription-based services that produce recurring revenue is where a lot of the focus is. These service offerings, by nature, are continuously evolving, and these require our IT systems to support these frequent changes. These offerings, there's a whole lot of experimentation that goes on. There's an offering that gets made, it gets tweaked depending on how the market is receiving it, and needing the IT systems to support, selling and delivering these offers is therefore super critical. Our legacy IT footprint was predominantly on-prem. And furthermore, it was spread across a whole bunch of disparate platforms, very much along the lines of what Mike was alluding to, right? It was becoming hard for us to keep pace with some of these evolving business needs, and to kind of add to the complexity, the cost of ownership of these legacy systems was not getting any cheaper. So this made us, this was one of the key drivers that made us look at our, IT offerings and look to see how we could transform it and modernize it. The crux of it, or the key drivers there, were, uh, you know, providing business agility, ensuring our user community and stakeholder experience was, top notch. We needed to make sure our systems were scalable, and obviously, they were kind of easy to maintain. So, using some of those drivers, we set upon a multi-year transformation journey. And the first step on any such transformation is figuring out what your technology stack is and whether it, can support the business vision. And we went through a huge discovery phase, at the end of which we decided to leverage Salesforce as a key platform. We're using SFDC, we're using the Sales Cloud, the Service Cloud, um, with the intent. One of the key drivers was to, as I indicated, from a stakeholder experience point of view, we wanted to ensure that our modernization or transformation journey brought the experience on a single platform to minimize any kind of swivel chair, um, that our stakeholders were facing. So, again, to re-summarize, business agility, stakeholder experience, scalability, ease of maintenance were some of the key drivers as we embarked on this modernization program.
Excellent. So I think I heard this business value and then multiple parameters from business side playing such an important role in modernization. So Mike, if I have to ask you about when you build a business case for it, of course all of the cost elements, everything is there, but beyond that, how did you decide on the return on investment timelines? And then if I may, uh, modernization programs need good amount of funding, good amount of money, and then this expense is there. uh, how was that a challenge, or people were bought into the idea? If you can throw some light.
It wasn't that hard, to be honest with you, because clients were taking us there. I mean, at Broadridge, we typically do not undertake things without having client support and involvement, or purchasing some products. So typically, we're going to not the bulk of what we're going to invest in is going to be driven by clients, as I said earlier, and our modernization strategy has to align and deliver business and client objectives. Anything less than that would be unacceptable to us. So we have an outside in approach, and every business transaction that we do is supportable, and we can make a compelling business case for it. So, I try not to have great technology sort of running around looking to solve a problem or find a solution. It's typically, to me, the other way around, that we have a client problem, a client challenge, or a client opportunity where the marketplace is heading. And then we say, what is the best technology to do it? But we have a philosophy on, as I said earlier, our ABCD strategy, that we want to use those technologies, but we don't want them chasing things that aren't good business opportunities for us or doing a greater client good. So to us, that's what drives us, not the other way around. And that when we do client projects, whether it's onboarding, upgrades, new products, whatever, we embed modernization into those projects.
Very interesting. Very interesting. So Jay, in terms of your landscape, and you talked about you had a complex landscape and there were multiple moving parts. So where did you decide to start your modernization journey, in terms of, given the massive landscape, given so many applications, custom applications, package applications, different workloads? Where did you start, and how did you come to the point that, okay, we need to start from here?
Yeah, great question, Yigal. As you know, right, transformational journeys start out being very idealistic with lots of aspirations, and those ideal goals translate to becoming business requirements, right? So the minute you say transformation, everybody has a laundry list of things that they'd like done. Um, so, to kind of make sure that we had a proper governance on this, we decided that the first phase of our project would focus on developing, a comprehensive feature roadmap for the entire program. Towards that, we created a core team, and we started out with a series of global workshops. And of course, all of this was pre-pandemic, where we had the luxury of physically, traveling through parts of the, through various parts of the world where Cisco offices are, right? So we started the transformation journey working across our global user community with the intent to develop a clear vision of the business outcome. Mike talked about, it's about business value first, right? So we set out, with the goal of having a clear vision developed for the business outcomes. Coming out of that, we created a target capabilities roadmap, and we broke them into what we call a crawl, walk, and a run life cycle. We made, one of the other things we did was we made a conscious decision to migrate into this new, or to transform in a phased manner. We didn't want to migrate everything big bang, just so that we ensured that there was minimal disruption to our existing book of business, right? So the key, message there is the approach that we took is very business outcome driven. This helped define, what systems and what features to modernize. For example, we have a new professional services offering that that is known, that is called Business Critical Services 3.0. There was a conscious decision to sell and deliver this only on the new platform. right? Um, this type of rationalization and this type of rationalization basically helped with the overall prioritization, right? Furthermore, we did a deliberate evaluation of our to-be architecture. Again, technology was not driving the business, as Mike said. It was the other way around, right? We took the business outcomes, and then we said, "Hey, how does the future state architecture look like?" And that too contributed to how we would spread out the modernization and the feature effort. So, to summarize, business outcomes, the target capability map, a very, milestone-driven approach. Don't bite more than you can chew, and a clear, target architecture vision. All of these kind of helped prioritize our modernization efforts.
Excellent. And I think I am hearing this recurring theme of how business value is so important. And let me share some snippet with all of you in terms of some of things that we saw in our research, that now the clients have also started to have this crawl, walk, run for their business value from modernization as well. So they are not just focused on, okay, this is my business case. They are saying, okay, these are the three scenarios I would want to go for. This is my base business case. This is my disruptive business case. So analyzing almost like 300 of such engagements, we found currently only around 13 to 15% of enterprises were able to get to the disruptive business value. Most of them are either at base value or just above it. But I think everybody wants to get to that point where they would want to get a lot more business value than they probably started with. And as I said in the beginning, that cloud operating models, cloud services are probably giving this aspiration to a lot of enterprises around how they can fundamentally rethink their legacy landscape. So let me ask Shaji around this. Shaji, what you are seeing in your client base is like cloud becoming sort of a default for modernization journey?
Yeah, hi. Thanks, Yugal, and hello, everyone. See, in our landscape today, more than 90% of the modernization programs has a target on cloud, whether it is public, private, or hybrid. And I think the reason why the clients select cloud is obvious, and I would categorize them into two broad buckets. The first one is around the variability and the elasticity that the cloud can provide. Whether it is converting capex to opex, or the ability to scale up or down depending on their usage, and almost the infinite capacity that cloud provides, coupled with the high resiliency and robust security. And I think that those make cloud in some way a no-brainer for most of our clients. And the other broad category of reasons I would say would be because of some of those rich set of the services that the hyperscalers provide, right? And those allow the cloud transformation much faster, and also some of those out-of-box cognitive services that they provide, the ability to build on algorithms or the database on cloud. All these really help us to accelerate the entire transformation to cloud. And I think these are the two broad set of reasons why many of our clients use as cloud as the target platform. And of course, our clients are seeing the benefits of that as well. Now during the holiday season sale, the e-com retailers don't have to look at increasing their capacity. It almost happens automatically. And in some cases, our clients want to move out of mainframe and even switch off mainframe in some cases, or reduce the footprint of mainframe. One of the leading Australian retailer, so they wanted to move their core merchandise and inventory management applications from mainframe to cloud. And they wanted to do that within 12 months so that they don't have to renew their mainframe contract. And ultimately, they were able to save their operating expense by about 54%. And of course, as we all know, there are a broad spectrum of modernization opportunities that we see. And on the other side, it could be a complete transformation, multi-year engagement where we reimagine the customer journeys, relook at some of the processes, add some new features and all that. One of the recent engagements that we have signed with one of the largest asset management companies from the US in transforming their record keeping business is a good example for that. So in all these, if you look at it, irrespective of what kind of pattern or what kind of business, we do see cloud playing a significant role. I also mentioned another interesting service innovation, which we are seeing today, and I call it as zero cost modernization to cloud. Now, of course, cost is an imperative for most of our clients. So here, what we do is take a bunch of applications for multi-year engagement and do for maintenance and support. And during that multi-year engagement, we transform these applications to cloud and then continue to support on cloud. And the good thing here is that the cost to our clients don't increase. Whatever they were spending for run the business earlier on would continue to be the same even going forward. So that is why I call this as a zero cost modernization to cloud. And finally, I would say, as per one estimate, only about 18% of the workload today is on cloud, whether it is public or private. And there is a lot of runway left on this cloud transformation going forward. And that is the reason we recently launched our Infosys Cobalt. And Infosys Cobalt is a set of services, solutions, and platforms for enterprises to accelerate their cloud transformation journey.
Yeah, I think this resonates completely with what we are seeing in our research that, as I said earlier, cloud has given an aspiration to enterprises to actually push their own thinking as well as thinking of their service partners. So it is just not about a rehosting model, but how do you fundamentally rethink some of these things? And I think increasingly, a lot of the clients are also asking using cloud services for their sustainability initiatives, which so you know just going back to Mike again. Mike, you had a very clear vision and clear view of why you are doing this modernization, what you intend to achieve from it. But then a lot of the enterprises are not at that maturity. So if you have to give some advice to these kind of enterprises who normally struggle with, on one hand, the business priorities keep on changing. On the other hand, going back to Shaji's point, let's say the cloud vendors or technology in general keeps on changing so fast. And then they struggle what to do, where to do, and how do they actually build their modernization strategy. What advice would you have for these type of enterprises?
Okay. I think, as I said before, it starts with the business objectives and the client objectives. I think the pace of change is extraordinary and only getting faster. And COVID is accelerating that right now. And I think it's showing things breaking down or can't be sustained when you work from home or you're not able to do as much face to face. So to me, I think you have to have flexibility in your approach. I think it's fine to have a long-term vision and a target, but I think the best way to do these things are to have toll gates along the way. And what I mean by that is, let's say you do something for a year or 18 months. At the end, you can reassess it, but you've had value in that 18 months. That I don't think benefits should happen 5 years down the road. I think that there's toll gates along the way, that you're getting benefits along the way. You can assess, you can pivot as new things come available, and you get learnings. Secondarily, I also think that you adjust the tools to the organization's culture and capabilities and objectives. So an example might be, everybody talks about doing agile these days, but agile isn't always the right answer. And oftentimes it's, people use it as an excuse to have scope creep or not do documentation and other strong processes that you need, which are so important in the financial service space. So to me, there's hybrid approaches. There's things that you could do parts of the project that are agile, parts that are waterfall, that you can combine business requirements and functional requirements and do them at the same time. But I think you have to have a model that's flexible and suits what you're trying to do in your culture. I also think on agile that it might be better suited for things that are core client, client facing or internal stakeholder facing, that I think it's very hard for users to define how they want a look and feel or to make things intuitive. And I think an agile model is very helpful there because you can do pilots, you can do the stories along the way, and you can assess where you are. Two other points I would make is be very clear on assumptions, scope, and what's not in scope. That a lot of times you need to have guardrails on projects, and without having good assumptions and defining the scope right, as well as the limitations, you're not going to be successful. And then finally, to me, the advice is I don't think transformation lasts or is sustainable unless the people that have to manage it and own it when it's up and running are there. So to build change on the side, separate from the people that will run it, I think is a recipe for not having sustainable success.
Absolutely. And I think the point that you made around almost like many times due to the return on investment pressure, timelines getting crunched, teams taking sort of shortcuts, if you will, and we see it across many enterprises. And then there are multiple opportunities, not only from a cost saving point of view that you can evaluate better open source tools or alternatives or automation for that matter, but it is as much about building a future ready or a system which is geared towards the future rather than something which is talking as of today. So that is critical, and I think enterprising are asking those questions and then adopting some of those best practices. But Jay, from your point of view, if you have to define, or from your experience of this modernization journey, when you began, were there any critical success factors that you had in mind that, for this program to succeed? I know the business buy-in there, you wanted to drive business value and other things, but these are some of the critical success factors. If we have to succeed, we must do this. What there some of those parameters in your mind?
Great question. And I think between you and Mike, you kind of touched upon some of the, it's the same themes that we noticed, right? Look, to kick off a large program, there's a certain inertia kicking off a large program, especially one that is transformational in nature, right? Kicking these off is generally hard. It takes a large mind share to all converge, and getting something going, especially in a large organization, is hard. Um, but again, it's our approach to transformation was completely guided by business outcomes, right? Keeping these outcomes front and center was key. And on a more tactical front, I talked about going through the whole road mapping journey and the crawl, walk, run phases of the roadmap, right? So that definitely helped us, right? We made sure that we were able to kind of carve out bite-size delivery plans, and as Mike alluded to, with proper toll gates that help you measure and course correct. We embedded those principles into our crawl, walk, run, right? For each of these phases, the way we approached it is we did, I guess, what we called a viability analysis, followed by a feasibility analysis. And the outcome of that intersection was what we thought we could deliver as our MVP. Few other things that also kind of helped us, through the journey, especially to kick things off, was we had a clear mandate both from business and IT leadership that we were going to use out of box features. So, our modernization journey, as I called out, we were in, we chose Salesforce as a platform and some of the Salesforce applications to leverage. So this mandate of using out of box features um, and, trying to fit or modify our business processes to fit these out of box features helped us also tremendously, right? Otherwise, what ends up happening, as I called out earlier, was people have all of these aspirations when a transformation program starts, and everyone has their view of what experience they are looking for, and trying to set the mandate which said, hey, stick to out of box features, make sure you get this thing off the ground, and then you can kind of evolve, helped us tremendously, right? um, the Another factor was change management. One of our leaders very clearly called out that when you have such a large program that you're kicking off, perhaps something like 25 to 30% of your budget should be carved out to support change management and adoption. So that was another thing that we took away. um, some of the other program management principles, like ensuring that you had strict governance, making sure that your scope, schedule, budget, the holy triangle of program management is kind of set in place. Some of those were critical success factors. And we talked about agile, right? The whole fail fast, early feedback, toll gates, course correction, operate in an agile way where it makes sense, right? As I indicated, our initial phase, we said, hey, we're going to do the entire road mapping, right? That wasn't done in an agile phase manner. We said, hey, we're going to do all of this, set out a roadmap, and then the delivery aspects, we decided to follow an agile, mechanism. And one other key, success factor was we need to make sure that whatever we do, we're not disrupting our existing book of business. We needed to make sure that that was safeguarded, and that kind of also helped figure out how our crawl, walk, run roadmap should look. So again, several success factors, but no different from some of the similar themes that each of you talked about.
Mhm. Yeah, I think in general, enterprises have, when they begin, to your point, lot of aspirations. We will do this, we will do that. This is the way we are going to do. But eventually, when rubber hits the road, many times, in fact, many times, we have seen that plans going completely awry. And be it on budget, be it for timeline, resource requirements, or the system that is built, whether it is serving business purpose and or not. So to your point around, and to your and Mike's point around, those milestone, and then check gates where you are checking, okay, whether things are going at the way that we want. And I guess as this timeline gets further and further compressed, because the pandemic is not allowing people to have a 3 year luxury period now. uh, I would want to ask Shaji in terms of what are you seeing in your client base, specifically around a whether this pandemic fueled their appetite for modernization, and then how are they thinking about as the timelines compress, how should they approach modernization?
Oh, absolutely. We already heard, even in this call, that how pandemic is really accelerated the entire digital transformation, and that we are seeing as a theme across most of our client base. And of course, modernizing legacy landscape is an integral part of those digital transformation. Now, the reasons could be many for many of these clients to accelerate this entire modernization journey. And in some cases, their end customers are becoming more and more digital savvy, and they expect all those digital channels available for them as well. Or in some cases, they expect the speed that they see from many of these um, web applications, and they expect a similar responses speed from their applications too. Or in some cases, it could be also that the cloud-born companies who the competition who do not have any such legacy, so they are really giving a run for money, and it's becoming more of an issue of a survival for many of our clients to actually modernize their landscape. So definitely we have seen the pandemic has actually accelerated the entire modernization journey, and we are seeing a lot of examples too. One that comes to my mind is one of a large pharma chains from Japan. They were kind of pushing this entire cloud adoption modernization for almost 2 years. But then, the pandemic hit, and we saw them actually accelerating this entire journey during this time. Now, coming to your question on speeding up the modernization journey itself. So first let's look at what are some of the challenges the clients are facing, and there are plenty. So I would just mention maybe three or four of those. So many of these applications have been written over last many years, or maybe even many decades, right? So there is definitely a lack of subject matter expertise for many of these applications. Then second, these are very complex engagements. And there is a complexity in terms of technology and various other aspects that come with that. And third, I would say these are pretty expensive, right? These are very large, complex programs, and very expensive too to run this modernization engagement. And finally, it takes a long time many times. The time to value is pretty long, and people do get tired after some point in time, or some kind of fatigue sets in later on. So there are quite a few such challenges exist, and then, obviously we need to look at multiple dimensions if you want to address such a complex problem that we are looking at. Broadly, I would look at maybe three aspects. One is around the talent. Second, around the whole innovation that we can bring into this modernization journey. And finally, how can we bring hyperproductivity into the transformation journey? So if I take the example from Infosys, as far as the talent is concerned, so we have invested very heavily into talent reskilling, refactoring. There is a digital certification initiative, or what we call digital tagging, to incentivize our employees to get digital skills. In fact, going one step further, there is also digital specialist career stream, which actually provides those deep technical expertise required for some of these transformation initiatives. The second aspect is all around innovation, right? So when we have such complex engagements, it is imperative that we get the power of the ecosystem from around. So we have this Infosys Innovation Network, which actually augments the internal innovation that happens with the external ecosystem. So we've got onboarded a lot of startups onto this network, the innovation network, from various domains like AI, IoT, cybersecurity, and so on and so forth. So collectively, we are able to bring a lot of innovation to some of these modernization initiatives. And finally, it's very important to get hyperproductivity into the entire modernization initiative. And this is where platforms and IPs play a significant role. And I want to point your attention to an important announcement that we made today, and that is a launch of Infosys Modernization Suite. So this is a set of 5 platforms that we have developed based on our experience implementing about 5,000 plus modernization programs for over our 600 clients. And we have been using this set of platforms for our clients for the last several months and quarters. So like I said, there are 5 platforms under this modernization suite. And together, it addresses various patterns in the modernization that exist in various client scenarios. And the 5 platforms are, number one, there is Infosys Cloud Modernization Platform. Secondly, there is a Cloud Native Development Platform. Third, there is a Mainframe Modernization Platform. Fourth, there is a technology migration platform. And fifth, there is a data migration platform. So together, using all this, we are able to reduce the cost of modernization, reduce the time to market, and bring hyper productivity for this modernization initiative.
Yeah. Thanks much, Shaji. I think being conscious of the time, we would want to give some time back to the audience to ask their question. But if I have to quickly squeeze in one each for Mike and Jay around some of the challenges that you faced during your modernization journey and how did you overcome those? Mike?
So to me, we have to do a better job on planning. That oftentimes we plan for perfection, and while we should expect perfection and strive for it, I don't think we should plan for it. So we need to build better buffers in. Then secondly, the other key area is around dependencies and understanding things. I think someone mentioned earlier, there's a lot of old systems that we have and processes, and they're not documented. And then you have newer and younger people with great talent who don't know how things were built and why, because the documentation may be lagging. So there's a you don't know what you don't know aspect. So being able to flesh out dependencies and sort of the hidden things that sooner and better and more effectively are important in our projects.
Mhm. Jay, what about you? What sort of challenges did you face and how did you overcome some of those?
Yeah, I think we kind of touched upon most. I think we covered. Just to kind of name, some of the, at least the top three that comes to mind, right? Evolving business requirements and changing priorities, right? That is the nature of the business today. Um, you know, we need to. It's. I don't know if it is necessarily a challenge, but well, it is a challenge. But we need to be able to support the changing requirements in an agile way. That's one thing. I touched upon change management, right? We can roll out the most fancy platform and technology. If you don't have the right focus on change management and adoption, it's not going to get used. It doesn't matter. And then, I think Saji talked about, skilling and retooling, right? Um, Things are coming at us at a fast pace from both from an IT and a business point of view. Um, you know, reskilling people, giving deliberately planning the time for people to get reskilled, either through incentives or gamification, whatever it may be, right? Giving that time and to ensure that I guess a phrase that I use is more than often you are you know building the plane as you're flying it. You need to have the talent where you can reskill yourself as you're delivering business outcome, right? To be able to have a nimble team that is adaptable to the changes and to work with good partners like Infosys, right? To ensure that you've got a good partner ecosystem that can support you and supplement your needs is another key challenge which we've had to mitigate along the way.
Excellent. Thank you very much for those great insights. I think they align very well with the research that we've been doing at Everest Group. But I'll be just conscious of time and open this for audience Q&A. Anupama, if you have any questions, I think we can begin.
I don't have any.
We have one question from audience who says, uh, how do customers see open source technologies as part of modernization?
Okay, so look, why don't I just play it back to the panelist, Mike? I think you probably may be using a lot of open source technologies, but if you have any perspective around that, how is that adopted, and what's the use of it? Can you please share that?
I think it's widespread. It's Can you hear me? It's widespread. It's widespread acceptance. It's sort of table stakes at the moment. It's further along than cloud adaptation. I think, people are still, cloud's moving rapidly, but there's still some apprehension out there and firms not as embracing on that. But API is widespread acceptance at this point, and it's table stakes.
Mm-hmm. Anupama, we can move to the next one.
Yeah, we have one last question. What do you think about microservices transformation as a cost reduction strategy?
Yeah, I think eventually what at least we see at this group, and then I'll come to my panelists as well, is that though there are multiple moving parts in a modernization engagement, the budget continues to be an extremely important driver. It's almost like a fabric, so you cannot get away with it. You may not be uh, you know using it or thinking about it day in day out. You may be thinking more about the business value modernization initiative is providing, but there's no running away from the cost of modernization. So whatever you do, which that includes re-architecting your application using microservices for that matter, which will allow you to have your own technology stack for different services if you want. Microservices by themselves introduce different kind of problems, and I think we can have a separate webinar on that. But they are extremely helpful when you want to remake or rebuild or re-architect your legacy workloads. So from a cost saving perspective, I think most of the clients are not seeing microservices just to avoid cost. But as I said, given the fact that cost becomes a given narrative in any modernization journey, they definitely help in reducing the cost of ownership. But let me just ask Shaji and Jay, given the fact that both of you have been involved in such modernization engagements, what do you think from microservices point of view and their impact on modernization in general and then cost savings in particular?
One of the key things that comes to mind is, people always look to have best of breed solutions. With a microservices architecture, you can get best of breed. You can go pick up a service that is best of breed from one, provider, and a different one from another provider, as long as you've architected your platform to leverage microservices.
So yeah, Yugal. So microservices, API-based architecture, as we see, is an integral part of most of the large transformation programs that we are implementing today. And I think that's many a times when we are making large-scale transformation, it is based on a microservice architecture. I'm not very sure about it's going to be really saving a lot of cost, but I think it is the right architecture from what we are seeing for most of our clients.
Yeah, absolutely. Anupama, over to you for closing.
Thank you so much, Yugal. What an insightful session. Those were power-packed 60 minutes for us. Thank you so much, Mike, Jay, Yugal, and Shaji for sharing your views with us today. I also thank you all for joining us today. I hope you found this session very useful. You will receive the event recording for reviewing. You can always contact us at modernization@infosys.com for any future queries. Thank you again for joining today.